Hello everybody and welcome to the channel. I'm Cassidy. If you're new here, welcome. It's really nice to meet you. If you are returning, welcome back. It is good to see you all again. So today we're going to be talking about the second short story in If It Bleeds by Stephen King. I did make a video on the first short story, Mr. Harrigan's Phone. You by no means have to watch that video. I will link it down below in case you want to, but the short stories have nothing to do with each other, so do what you want. As always, massive spoilers for the entire video, so if you do want to read this short story without any spoilers, completely new, click off the video, click back on the ones you have read it. I'd love to hear what you guys thought. If anyone is interested, I used the same bookmark, obviously, for the whole book. It is the little voodoo doll that someone drew. It's double-sided. And if you see me look down or off to the side, I'm simply referring back to my notes so I don't forget anything I would like to tell you guys. So the short story we're going to be talking about today is Life of Chuck. And just like with the first short story, if you did watch that video, I'm going to read the entire back of this and then just the Life of Chuck blurb once again. So, Stephen King's novellas are their own dark treat, briefer but just as moving and enduring as his longer fiction. Many of his novellas have been made into iconic films, including The Body, Princey's Stand By Me, and Rita Hayworth and Shawshank Redemption, Princey's Shawshank Redemption. King's spectacular range is on display in the four iconic new tales in If It Bleeds. In the title story, Holly Gibney, from the Mr. Mercedes trilogy and The Outsider, must face her fears and possibly another outsider, this time on her own. In Mr. Harrigan's Phone, an intergenerational friendship has a disturbing afterlife. Life of Chuck explores how each of us contains multitudes. And in Rat, a struggling writer contends with the darker side of ambition. If one of King's great concerns is evil, there's plenty of it in If It Bleeds. There's also evil's opposite, which in King's fiction often manifests as friendship. And King reminds us that life's quotidian pleasures are even more glorious because they are fleeting. The outrageous good fortune of a beautiful blue day after a string of gray ones, the delight of dancing when every move feels perfect. It's in these moments that King's ability to describe pure joy rivals his ability to terrify us. So, Life of Chuck, the short story we'll be talking about today, explores how each of us contains multitudes. Alrighty, let's get into it. So it starts out with Marty. He's a teacher of, I think, high school, and he is living in a world that is losing internet. Like, the entire world is losing internet. And once it's gone, it's going to stay gone. There's no way to bring it back. You can sometimes still access it, but it's very spotty right now. Also, they're completely losing California to earthquakes. Like, I think half of California has been completely lost to earthquakes already. Which, I live in Arizona, so if that were to actually happen, I would so be moving. On his drive home, the street is extremely busy, as normal, but like even more so because the world is dying, and he sees a billboard for Charles Krantz. He is retiring from a bank, and it says 39 years, and Marty notes that he looks really good for having worked 39 years at that bank. Once he is home, he calls his ex-wife, Felicia. They're on really good terms, and they like to talk to each other, make sure each other's good. She is a nurse, and she, just that one day, has dealt with 6 unalivings. And she's just numb to it by now. Marty remembers a time when that would completely destroy her, and now it's just everyday life. The world is rough, and people don't want to be in it anymore. He also mentions the Charles Krantz billboard, and she's like, "Oh, I heard a radio advertisement for him." Like, that's so weird. After the phone call, Marty makes frozen dinner and, heats up a frozen dinner and tries to watch Netflix. And he gets the little loading screen, but then an ad for Charles retiring comes up again, and the screen goes black, so he can't watch Netflix. The next morning, he's going to leave for work, but a neighbor states that a giant sinkhole appeared, and traffic's a nightmare. It'll take him hours upon hours to get to work. It's not worth it. And they talk about the world. California is now basically completely lost to earthquakes. It's basically completely gone. Half of Florida has become swampland. And then food shortages are going to be happening any day now because people aren't coming to bring it into them anymore. Marty sees a different neighbor walk by, and he calls out to her because he knows that she works at that same bank that Charles is retiring from. And he's like, did you work with him? Like, why is this such a big deal? She's like, I didn't work with him. He must have worked at a different branch. But everybody knows about these ads, these billboards, these whatever for Charles. Like, it is very like, oh, people are like, yeah, I've seen it. Yeah, I've seen it. Yeah, I've seen it. Marty is just super duper chill about everything that's happening, which is crazy to me. He's like, yeah, whatever. World is dying. He'll have no food in like 2 days. And he's just like, eh. He goes outside and he sees a plane right. Thanks, Chuck. 39 great years. Like, an entire plane for this guy? He's like, what is with this guy? But he decides to walk to Felicia's house, his ex-wife's. And he hopes that she'll let him stay. He doesn't want to be alone. And they do get along really well. But he knows that the end is probably coming any moment. And he just doesn't want to be alone for it. Along the walk, he walks partially with this older gentleman who states that the Earth's rotation is actually slowing down, and that's why everything is happening like this. Marty mentions Chuck to this guy and is like, what do you think about him? And the old man is like, nothing. Like, why would I think anything of it? And then the old man stops, just kind of wants to enjoy the scenery. Marty continues on. Once he's in Felicia's neighborhood, Chuck's face shows up on literally every single window, or at least every single front window of every house. Like, not on the TVs in the houses, on the windows. Felicia's like, what's happening? I'm scared. And Marty's like, I don't know. And they just kind of like hold each other in fear, which is so sad. Like, that's terrifying. And then we cut to Chuck, a 39-year-old man who is on his deathbed. His wife is praying for him in the hospital church, and by his side are Chuck's son and his brother-in-law. And then Chuck dies, and Marty's world goes black. It's the end. So, the world that Marty lived in, that Marty called his home, was all ever only in Chuck's brain. Chuck was a real human, real to us, who created this world inside of him. And now I can't help but be like, oh, am I a part of someone else's brain? Is their entire world inside mine? But yeah, that's kind of sad. Like, it means every world would only last, on average, like maybe 60 years. Some people die really young, and some people live until they're 110. But even so, like, it's interesting. It's an interesting thought. We then go to this young man, like 20s, whose name is Jared, setting up a drum kit. His friend Mac is helping him. He's setting it up on a Thursday, and he's going to try to make some extra cash just by drumming. Jared and Mac both work at a record shop, but Jared much prefers this. We then cut to Janice. She's walking to her car or home from work. Her boyfriend just broke up with her via text. She's planning her night of, I don't know if it's a boozy night or an ice cream night, I can't remember, but then she hears drumming, so she starts walking towards the sound. We then cut to Chuck. He has a break in between accounting seminars. He's on a business trip right now. And he is thinking back to when he was in high school, and he would dance with the lead guitarist's little sister. Just having fun, living life, being in the moment, and then he hears drumming. So he also makes his way towards the sound. It's also revealed right now that he only has 9 months left to live. He doesn't know this yet. He hasn't been to the doctor. But he has less than a year. Jared sees Chuck standing in the audience, and he starts to make a new beat based off of Chuck's vibe. Chuck, hearing this, stops, then he starts to swing his hips, and then he starts to just a full-out dance. And a crowd starts gathering because they're like, oh my god. He's like, again, like 38, 39 right now. So an older, slightly older, not old, but probably not someone of the age that you would expect to just start dancing in the middle of a crowd. And then Chuck reaches out his hand to Janice to join him. And after a moment of hesitation, she does. And they just dance together, and they live in the moment, and they have fun, and they stop dancing after like the song, when the song ends. Money is pouring into Jared's hat during this time. Like, he set out a hat to collect tips, and money is pouring into it. People are so ecstatic, like watching Chuck and Janice dance, listening to Jared's music, and Jared's making a killing right now. So Chuck, once they're done dancing, Chuck's done. He's so tired. He's like, I'm done. Jared asks him and Janice both to stay for a minute. He counts out the money he made, and he divvies it up. He had made $400, and he's like, I wouldn't have made this much without you guys. Here, take your cut. So they do. And they just kind of like laugh and have fun. What fun that was. They had such a good time, and it was just living in the moment and not caring what others thought, which is such a great, like, that's such a great message that I need to take as well. They're never going to see each other. They're never going to see each other, let alone anyone else in the crowd again. So why do you care what they think? Just live your life, have fun. When they depart and Chuck is walking away, he's starting to get a migraine. And migraines are starting to become more common for him, and he's like, I need to go to the doctor. Which, of course, we know he ends up dying in just a couple of months. And he's sick. He's going to get worse. But despite that, and despite losing everything, all his memories, he will continue to remember that one moment when he stopped and danced and just had fun. And then the last section of Life of Chuck is, we go to Chuck, who is just a very young boy. He's 7, and he just lost both of his parents and his unborn little sister to a car accident. It was a really icy patch. They skid, they crashed, they died. So he was raised by his grandparents. He was told to never go to the cupola, like an attic, I think, area, because the wood was extremely rotted. He'd fall right through, but there was also a lock on the door, so he couldn't get through anyway. Both of his grandparents were really depressed, having just buried their child and child-in-law, and then unborn grandchild. Grandma didn't dance. Grandpa drank a lot. They eventually went to Disney World with Chuck, and things were a little better after that. Grandma started to dance again. Grandpa drank less. But one time when Grandma danced with Chuck, she called him by a different name. She called him Henry. And Grandpa, while he did drink less, when he did drink, he would tell Chuck secrets and things he shouldn't. He mentioned that the cupola was full of ghosts, and he mentioned a Henry Peterson. Grandma told him that Grandpa is just in his own world, basically. There was a young boy, last name being Jeffries, who had been hit by a driver, and Grandpa claims to have seen it happen before it actually did. Grandma's like, don't believe him. He's just full of it. But Chuck can tell that Grandma is lying to him. He doesn't push it. Chuck doesn't push it with his grandparents, however. He decides to bake muffins and bring them to the town gossip. He asks about Henry, because that was the name that was mentioned, and Grandma already told him about the Jeffries boy. And Henry was an accountant who hung himself after his wife ran away with her lover. So Chuck starts to wonder if maybe Grandpa saw Grandma's ghost in the cupola because of weird things he mentions, odd looks he gives her. He mentions the bread, like, it's weird things, and Chuck can't help but to wonder. Then one day, at school, he asks his teacher what multitudes are, and they state that it's everything you know. The world, people, environment, animals, everything. Then Grandma dies, and the house is once again in mourning. Chuck finds out that Grandma died. She was in the grocery store. She had a stroke, getting bread. Chuck, kind of to honor his grandma, he joins his dance class in middle school, and he is good. Like, so good he gets paired with the really bad kids because he'll make them better. He's really good. He goes to the school dance, and he dances with his, like, classmates, one of which has a boyfriend. He kind of has a crush on her, but she has a boyfriend. But she likes to dance with Chuck, and because they're like the best in the class, and they're having so much fun. Chuck ends up teaching the entire class how to moonwalk. He's just a good dancer. We cut to Chuck before he dies, and while he still remembers his wife and some facts about his life, he lied. He had a little scar on his hand, and he lied to his wife that he got beat up by a bully for dancing with his girlfriend, but he never did. He was outside just enjoying life and kind of dancing more, and he ran into a fence, and that's how he got the scar. She's like, why did you lie about that? He doesn't really know. And then we cut back to young Chuck, whose grandpa has just died. Chuck is 17 years old, and he stays in the house that his grandparents raised him in, and his relatives come and kind of like trade off helping him. Chuck is almost an adult at this point, but someone has to be there to watch him because he is technically still a minor. And Chuck decides to go into the cupola, and floor's not rotted, so he knew that his grandparents lied, but floor's not rotted, everything's fine. However, in the cupola, he sees himself on a hospital bed, dying. And that, my friends, is the short story of Life of Chuck. It explores how each of us contains multitudes. So I'm curious to know what you guys thought. I'm really curious to know if you think you're in someone else's brain and that's the world we're living in, or if maybe each of us has a little like multitude and world in our own brain. But does that change anything? Because Marty in this story was very much alive to him. Everything he felt, everything he thought and saw, to him was extremely real. He felt pain, loss, sadness, grief. He got married and divorced. So whether or not we're just living in someone else's brain or there's an entire world in ours, does it really matter? Would love to know what you guys thought, so please leave a comment down below. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like, subscribe if you guys are new, and I'll see you all next time. Bye!